Okay, so what we're going to be doing here is looking at stratified sampling. Okay, well, as it sounds like, this is when the population is divided into strata, be it something like gender, be it voting intentions, seems unlikely, or ethnicity, and obviously how many strata or how narrow the substrata is depends very much on what the population is that you're describing. So you've got something in very clearly defined strata, your population. And so what you're going to do is take a random sample from each strata in such a way that the proportion within your sample of each strata represents the proportion in the parent population. Okay, so if I've got 60%, let's go for a simple strata, 60% females, 40% males in my entire population, then within my stratified sample, if I'm doing it on the basis of gender, then my sample will be 60% female and 40% male, or the nearest to it. So if I've got a sample of 37, that might be quite complicated. All right, so it really is just looking at what the strata are, looking at your sample, finding the proportion of the sample you want to know how many you want in each of the strata, and then you can collect that in various different ways, but normally you do it as a random sample. So as I've written here, the population is divided into strata and a random sample is taken from each group, and you can number the items and use random number generator to identify which members you want. So the proportion of each strata sampled should be the proportion of each strata sampled should be the sample, or should make up the sample. So the number from each strata is the fraction number in the group over total population times the sample size. Okay, so if we're back to our parent population of 200, and it's 150 females and 50 males, and we want a sample of 25, then we go 150 over 200 times 25 and 50 over 200 times 25 to find our numbers that we want from the males and the females, and then within the female and the male group we would subdivide the strata. Okay, now the plus about this is that your sample would accurately reflect the population structure according to that strata that you had it divided up into. And so it guarantees proportional representation of groups within a population, provided those groups are represented in the strata that was dividing up your population. Okay, so unlike perhaps in medical trials where they talk about people and the effect on a person, when in fact it's all males in the sample. Okay, which doesn't actually tell you anything about females because the physiology is a bit different. So when you're doing research, if you're trying to collect a sample that represents the parent population and you know the gender makeup, male to female, or age groups, then you would be able to reflect that in the sample that you took. Okay. Now, the disadvantage of this is, one, is you need your strata clearly defined that you want to be sampling from, and two, to select your sample or your proportion of the sample from within that strata, you need to have a clear way of doing that. So you need, the population or the subpopulation or the strata within that population numbered in some way, or in a way you want to truly generate a random portion of that. Okay. So proportional stratified sampling is another way of thinking about what stratified sampling is. Okay.